So basically, we're gonna solve quadratics by factoring. So I'm just gonna write down this quadratic. 5x squared minus 46x plus 16 equals 0. Now to solve this, what I want to make it look like is x minus p times x minus q equals 0. Okay, so that I got to factor it. Now, one thing that I could do that might help is I could employ the AC method. Now, the AC method works when I say a is the coefficient in front of the x squared term, right? In other words, we're looking at it like this: ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Well, a equals 15, b equals negative 46, and c equals 16. Okay? So now the AC method works like this. I'm going to try and find two terms that when I add them up, they equal negative 46. But when I multiply those same two terms, they equal a times c, or in this case, 15 times 16. Well, what is 15 times 16? Well, I guess I'm going to get out my fancy calculator and find out, aren't I? Let's see what we got here. 15 times 16 is 240. So two numbers, when I multiply them, they equal 240, but when I add them up, they equal negative 46. So it's going to be like maybe 20 times something or something. I don't know. So the best thing to do, let me show you a little trick here. There's two tricks that involve a graphing calculator, okay? One is to take 240 and take the square root of it. So if I take the square root of 240, it'll give me a starting point. All right, 15. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say 240 divided by 15. All right, that's 15 times 16. If I add those up, it equals 46. But now remember, this is a negative 46 right here. This is a negative 46. So when I'm probably going to have to add two negative numbers. That's how I get the negative 46. Okay. So it might be like negative 15 and negative 16, but that only adds up to 31. So let's keep going. I just say 240 divided by 14. Nope, that doesn't work. 240 divided by 13. And what's going to happen is I'm going to find a number that I can divide both of these. It'll go in evenly. I'm going to find the answer this way, okay? So the next number is 12. 12 goes into 240 20 times. 12 plus 20 equals 32. So we're getting closer, but that won't work. So I'm going to say 240 divided by 11. That doesn't do it evenly. 240 divided by 10. 24 plus 10 is 34. See how we're creeping up to 46? So I'm going to say 240 divided by 7. Now, when you use a not 7, 9, when you use a calculator, it goes a lot quicker. That doesn't work. 240 divided by 8. 30. 30 plus 8 is 38. See the pattern? So then I'm going to say 240 divided by 7. That won't work. 240 divided by 6. 6 plus 40 is what? 46. So then what does this mean? Well, this probably means that I could say negative, oops, let me write this down. I could say negative 6 plus negative 40 equals negative 46. And then I could say negative 40 times negative 6 equals 240, positive 240. So how does that help me factor this? Well, I just rewrite the equation as 15x squared minus 40x minus 6x plus 16 equals 0. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to factor something out of the two terms in the front and then two terms in the back. And hopefully, if I did everything right, we should be good to go. So these both have an x, so I can factor out at least one x. And they're both divisible by 5, so I can factor out a 5x. So then this one becomes 3x, right? Because 5 times 3 gives me my 15. X times x gives me my x squared. I need to multiply 5 by negative 8. But 5x times negative 8 gives me a 40x. So now, if this is factorable, in this box, in these parentheses, I should have 3x minus 8. So I look at these. If this is negative here, I can't think of a time in my life where this one wasn't negative. So what goes into 6 and 16 evenly? 2. Now, notice that 2 times 3x gives me 6x. Negative 2 times 3x gives me a negative 6x. What do I multiply negative 2 by to get a positive 16? Negative 8. That's no accident. Okay? So then this factors to 5x minus 2 times 3x minus 8. Okay? I got the 5x minus 2 from here. And basically what I'm doing is I'm factoring out 3x minus 8 from all the terms. So now that's set equal to 0 still, right? This is set equal to 0. This is set equal to 0. So one way I know to get 0 is if I say 0 times 0 equals 0. In other words, if this equals 0, or 5x minus 2 equals 0, or if this equals 0, then the whole thing equals 0. So I'm just going to solve. I'm going to add 2 to both sides. At this point, you guys should know how to do the rest of this. That gives me 5x equals 2. And then I'm going to divide by 5. So this says x equals 2 fifths. Now I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to add 8 to both sides. That gives me 3x equals 8. Divide both sides by 3. I get x equals 8 thirds. So those are my two solutions or zeros. Now, how can I double check to make sure this is the correct answer? Anybody have a clue? Well, remember that when we graph this thing, the solutions, the zeros, all that stuff, it means the same thing. The x-intercept is the zeros. So if I graph this function, in other words, if I put in my graphing calculator 15x squared minus 46x plus 16, and I graph that, then I should, wherever it crosses the x-axis, should be 2 fifths and 8 thirds. The only challenge is the window. So I've got my window set pretty big. I don't need it that big. In my y-axis, I'm going to put it at a -5 and maybe a 10. because we're just looking where it crosses. Technically, that'll be fine. So when I graph it, we're not going to see the whole graph. We're just going to see the two parts where it crosses, okay? So now if I hit trace on my calculator, I'm literally just going to enter in 2 divided by 5. You hit the trace button and then enter in 2 divided by 5. What it'll do is it'll tell me exactly what the y value is at 2 divided by 5, and it should equal 0. See that? See how y equals 0? So I'm going to take a screenshot of that. Well, no, I'm not. So now the other one was 8 divided by 3. So if I say 8 divided by 3, that's the other, oops, wrong answer. If I say 8 divided by 3, then that gives me the other 0. Okay? So I was right. All my math was right. That was correct. What I would do if I were you guys, just sketch this graph a little bit because I really want you guys to understand that this is true because the graph says it's true. So what does this tell me? This tells me that this crosses right here and right here. This point is 2/5, comma, 0. And this point is 8/3, comma, 0. And that's it. That's how you double check your work.